Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Have you ever wondered if the grass is really greener on the other side? Thinking that life would be so much better if you just lived somewhere else or had different things? Well, today we're diving into a classic story that explores exactly that. It has a tale about two very different cousins who decide to swap lives for a little while, and what they discover might just surprise you. Get cozy, because we're about to tell the story of the town mouse and the country mouse. Let's begin. Once upon a time, nestled deep in a sunny meadow, lived a little mouse named Morty. Morty was a country mouse, and he loved his simple life. His home was a cozy little burrow under the roots of a big oak tree. Every day, he would scamper through fields of wheat and barley, nibbling on delicious grains, juicy berries, and sweet nuts that he found along the way. The air was always fresh, the birds sang sweet songs, and he felt safe and happy in his peaceful world. One day, Morty received a letter. It was from his cousin, Reginald, who lived in the big, bustling town. Reginald was coming for a visit. Morty was so excited. He cleaned his burrow from top to bottom and gathered the finest acorns, the plumpest blackberries, and the sweetest ears of corn he could find to prepare a feast for his guest. When Reginald arrived, he looked very sleek and sophisticated. But as he looked around at Morty's humble home, he turned up his nose. "My dear cousin," he said, sniffing at the simple meal. "Is this really how you live? Eating raw grains and roots? You poor thing. In the town, we dine on cakes, cheeses, and all sorts of magnificent leftovers from the grandest feasts." Morty was a little hurt, but he was also curious. Reginald's descriptions of town life sounded so exciting and glamorous. "You must come back with me," Reginald insisted. "I'll show you what real living is all about. You'll never want to return to this boring old countryside again." Tempted by the promise of luxury, Morty agreed. That very night, they hitched a ride on a farmer's cart and traveled to the town. Morty's eyes grew wide as they entered the grand house where Reginald lived. It was a mansion! They scurried into the dining room, and Morty gasped. The table was piled high with the remains of a spectacular dinner party. There were half-eaten slices of cake, crumbs of rich cheese, and sticky drops of jam. It was more food than Morty had ever seen in his life. "See?" Reginald said proudly. "Dig in, cousin!" They jumped onto the table and began to feast. The cake was heavenly, and the cheese was divine. Morty thought he was in paradise. But just as he was taking a bite of a delicious pastry, the dining room door suddenly burst open. An enormous cat with sharp claws and gleaming eyes pounced into the room. "Quick, run!" squeaked Reginald. They scrambled off the table and dashed for a tiny hole in the wall, with the cats hot on their tails. Morty's heart pounded in his chest. They barely made it to safety. Trembling in the dark, Morty whispered, "What was that?" "Are we safe?" "Oh, that's just the house cats," Reginald said casually, trying to catch his breath. "They're a bit of a nuisance, but we just have to be quick. Let's go back, the coast is probably clear." But Morty was too frightened to move. Just then, they heard heavy footsteps and loud voices as the servants came in to clear the table. They had to hide for what felt like an eternity. Later, when all was quiet again, they crept out. The feast was gone. Reginald led Morty to the pantry for a midnight snack. But just as they started nibbling on a bag of flour, the cook came in, and they had to run and hide all over again. By the time morning came, Morty was exhausted, terrified, and his stomach was still empty. He looked at his cousin Reginald, who seemed used to this life of constant danger and stress. "Thank you for showing me the town, cousin," Morty said, his voice shaky. "Your food is indeed wonderful, but I can't enjoy it with my heart in my throat. I would rather have my simple grains and berries in peace than your fancy cakes in constant fear." And with that, Morty said his goodbyes and scurried back to the countryside as fast as his little legs could carry him. When he finally arrived at his cozy burrow, he took a deep breath of fresh country air and had a simple, peaceful meal of barleycorn. He had never felt so happy or so content. So what can we learn from our two little mice? The story teaches us a really important lesson. One person as treasure is another person as trash. What seems like a perfect life to one person might be a nightmare for someone else. The country mouse valued peace, safety, and simplicity. The town mouse valued excitement and luxury, even if it came with danger. The story reminds us that happiness isn't about having the most glamorous or exciting life. It's about finding what truly makes you content and appreciating the good things you already have. It's better to live a simple life in peace than a rich life in fear. Thank you so much for watching with us today. What did you think of the story? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories and lessons. We'll see you next time.